The sound of the monitor's rhythmic beeping echoed through the sterile, white-walled ICU of St. Grace Memorial Hospital. It was past midnight, and the storm outside mirrored the chaos within, a child in critical condition, a family in tears, and a hospital running on frayed nerves. Among the flurry of doctors and nurses was Nurse Liana Hayes, a woman known for her calm demeanor, gentle voice, and unmatched dedication. She had worked 2 consecutive shifts already but refused to leave, not when little Benny, the 7-year-old boy in room 306, needed every ounce of care. Dr. Calvin Mercer stormed down the corridor like a hurricane in human form. Tall, impeccably dressed, and fiercely intelligent, he was also known for his fiery temper and intolerance for mistakes. Once a child prodigy in medicine, now the youngest chief surgeon in the city, Calvin had little patience for human error, especially during emergencies. He entered room 306 where Nurse Liana was adjusting the foredrip. The child's vitals had dropped unexpectedly, and panic gripped the room. Calvin barked out a command to administer a specific dosage. Liana, quickly scanning the chart, hesitated. "Doctor, his chart indicates he's allergic to." "I said do it." Calvin snapped, voice rising. "I'm sorry, but I won't risk his life," she replied firmly, her voice steady but respectful. And then it happened. A moment of pure, ugly impulse. Calvin raised his hand and struck Liana across the cheek. The room went silent. Even the monitors seemed to pause. Liana's eyes widened, not just from the pain, but from the disbelief. She didn't yell. She didn't retaliate. She simply stepped back, tears welling up as she held her face. "You're suspended indefinitely," Calvin growled. "Leave now." Word spread like wildfire. Staff whispered in shock. Some were furious. Others afraid to speak up. Liana packed her things in silence, her face swollen and red. She didn't fight the decision. She didn't file a report. She simply walked out of the hospital, past her colleagues, past the rain-slicked windows, and into the dark night. That night, Calvin couldn't sleep. His mind was restless, bouncing between guilt and pride. He had saved lives by being decisive, hadn't he? But something about Liana's silence haunted him. She hadn't defended herself. She hadn't even looked angry. Just, heartbroken. And somehow, that hurt more than any retaliation would have. The next morning, St. Grace buzzed with early-hour tension. Nurses took their posts. Patients stirred in their beds. But something was off. In room 306, little Benny's mother was crying, this time from joy. Her son's vitals had stabilized. The boy was conscious. The chart revealed someone had returned during the night and carefully adjusted his treatment, administering a different dosage, checking his oxygen levels, even singing softly to him as he slept. A nurse had slipped in anonymously, ensuring Benny's survival. Security footage showed a woman in a hooded raincoat entering through the back door, Liana. Calvin was informed minutes later. His hands trembled as he watched the footage. The clock read 2:17 a.m. She had come back, despite being humiliated and expelled, just to make sure the child lived. He remembered her soft-spoken objection, "I won't risk his life." She had been right. The dosage he'd ordered could have killed the child. For the first time in years, Dr. Calvin Mercer felt something break within him, a wall he didn't know he'd built. A wall of pride, ego, and self-importance. He had hit a woman, an innocent nurse, out of anger. And she had saved a life regardless. He didn't waste a second. With remorse carved into every step, he called an emergency meeting with the board. He confessed everything, the slap, the suspension, the mistake. His voice cracked as he said, "If she doesn't come back, I'll resign." It was almost noon when Liana received a call from the hospital director. She was asked to come in for an urgent matter. She hesitated, heart still sore, but agreed. When she entered the main lobby, what she saw stunned her. Every doctor and nurse stood in silence. Calvin stood at the center, his white coat removed, holding a bouquet of white lilies, her favorite, though she never mentioned it aloud to him. His eyes, once cold and calculating, were red-rimmed and heavy. Liana. I was wrong. In every possible way. I let my pride become more important than my patients, my team, and basic human decency. You saved a life after I tried to silence your voice. I'm sorry. I've already filed for my suspension. But before I leave, please, forgive me. Silence hung like mist in the air, until Liana slowly stepped forward. Her voice was quiet but powerful. It wasn't about me. It was about Benny. And if you truly want to be better, for your patients, for yourself, then don't leave. Stay, and let this be your change. Calvin fell to his knees, overwhelmed. The staff, some in tears, broke into applause, not because of his breakdown, but because of Liana's forgiveness, her strength, her humanity. In the weeks that followed, changes swept through St. Grace. Calvin, now humbler, introduced emotional intelligence training for all surgeons. Liana was promoted to lead nurse and started a compassion care program, ensuring no patient or staff felt voiceless again. Together, they gave talks in medical colleges, sharing their story, not just of failure, but of redemption. And Benny? He recovered fully, and whenever he visited the hospital for checkups, he would hug Liana and whisper, "You're my angel nurse." The story of the doctor who hit a nurse and the miracle that followed became more than just gossip, it became a lesson. In a world where authority can sometimes overshadow empathy, it was a quiet, unwavering act of kindness that saved a life and changed countless others. Not through anger or revenge, but through selflessness, humility, and forgiveness. And that, truly, shocked everyone.